The message came at 6:42 p.m., right when he was helping his daughter with math homework. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., blind date, non-negotiable. Consider it strategic exposure. It was signed by Elena Vale, CEO of Vale Strategic Holdings. Marcus Reed stared at the screen like it had insulted him personally. He was her head of corporate strategy, divorced, single father, known for being sharp, disciplined, and allergic to office drama. He kept his life contained, work at the top, daughter in the center, everything else irrelevant. And now his boss had decided to orchestrate his dating life. His first instinct was irritation. His second was suspicion. Marcus didn't date within professional circles. He didn't date much at all. After the divorce, after the custody hearings, after the quiet humiliation of rebuilding from scratch, he'd learned something valuable. Emotional exposure was expensive. He typed a reply. With respect, I don't participate in executive social experiments. 3 dots appeared instantly. It's not an experiment. It's a recalibration. He almost laughed. Recalibration. That was Elena, always turning personal matters into strategic language, always in control. He'd worked under her for 4 years. In that time, he'd watched her dismantle competitors twice her size. She had a reputation for ruthless clarity. No scandals, no romantic entanglements, no weaknesses. And now she was setting him up on a blind date? "Daddy, you're frowning again," his daughter Lily said from across the table. "I'm thinking," he replied. "About work?" He nodded. He didn't tell her that the most intimidating woman in the city had just scheduled his evening like a board meeting. The next day, the rumors had already started. Someone in HR had seen the reservation at Noir, the most exclusive private restaurant in the financial district. Someone else noticed Elena's driver was scheduled for 7:45 p.m. sharp. By lunch, whispers were crawling through the glass corridors. Apparently, she's setting him up. Why him? Maybe she's testing loyalty. Or maybe she's bored. Marcus ignored it. He always did. But something felt off. Elena never did anything casually. If she was arranging this, it served a purpose. At 7:58 p.m., Marcus walked into Noir. No tie, calm expression, controlled posture. The host led him to a private table. 2 place settings, 1 chair empty. He exhaled slowly. Then the door opened. He didn't expect the silence. He didn't expect the room to feel smaller. He definitely didn't expect her. Elena Vale stepped inside, alone. No assistant, no entourage, no shield, dark dress, minimal jewelry, no power blazer. Just her. Marcus stood up slowly. "Where is she?" he asked. Elena's expression didn't shift. "I canceled her," she said. He frowned. "You canceled?" "There was never anyone else, Marcus." The weight of that sentence hit harder than he expected. She pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. "This is the blind date." Silence. The air between them tightened. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years inside a boardroom. Not intimidation, not anger. Something more dangerous. Uncertainty. "You orchestrated rumors," he said quietly. "Yes." "You scheduled this publicly." "Yes." "Why?" Elena held his gaze without blinking. "Because you hide behind control," she said calmly. "And so do I." He didn't move. "And I'm tired of negotiating everything except the truth." His heartbeat betrayed him first. "This is inappropriate," he said. "Is it?" she asked. "Or is it honest?" He didn't answer. For the first time in 4 years, Marcus Reed didn't have the strategic advantage. And he had no idea whether this was a trap, or the first real thing that had happened to him in years. Marcus didn't sit down right away. He stayed standing, looking at her like she'd just detonated something carefully constructed between them. "You could lose credibility over this," he said quietly. Elena didn't flinch. "Only if I pretend it's something it's not." "And what is it?" he asked. She paused for the first time since entering the room. An honest risk. That answer unsettled more than anything else she could have said. Marcus finally took his seat. He didn't relax into it. His back stayed straight, hands folded loosely on the table, measured, guarded. The waiter approached, but Elena dismissed him gently. "We'll order later." She wanted the conversation first. "Of course she did. You created a narrative," Marcus said. "You made it look like I was being paraded." "I made it look like you were desired," she corrected. He gave a dry laugh. "That's not better." Her gaze softened, slightly. "You're the only executive here who refuses every social invitation. You leave at 6, you don't attend private events, you avoid speculation." "I have a daughter," he replied. "I know." There it was again. The quiet reminder that she noticed more than she let on. Marcus leaned back slightly. "This isn't a game I'm interested in." "It's not a game," she said firmly. "It's clarity." "Clarity about what?" She held his gaze. "About whether the walls you built are protecting you or isolating you." He didn't respond. But something in his jaw tightened. She continued carefully. "I've watched you, Marcus. You operate flawlessly. But you never let anyone get close. Not professionally, not personally. That's called boundaries." "No," she said calmly. "That's called survival." The word landed heavier than expected. He studied her then, really studied her. No boardroom armor, no executive tone, just a woman sitting across from him, deliberately exposed. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Elena didn't hesitate this time. "Because you don't need me," he frowned. "Everyone else here wants something from me. Position, influence, approval. You don't." She inhaled slowly. "You challenge me. You disagree with me without flinching. You protect your dignity. And that makes you want to date me?" he asked. "It makes me curious about who you are when you're not performing strength." That hit deeper than he wanted to admit. Marcus wasn't offended. He was seen, and that was dangerous. The door to the private room opened briefly. A staff member whispered something to the host outside. A subtle reminder, they weren't invisible. Rumors were spreading upstairs. By morning the board would know. "You're risking the company," he said quietly. "I built this company," she replied evenly. "I'm not risking it. I'm choosing to stop pretending I'm untouchable." He studied her face, searching for manipulation. He didn't find any. "What happens tomorrow?" he asked. "Tomorrow," she said calmly, "we go back to work, same as always. And if someone questions it, I'll answer." He felt the shift then. She wasn't hiding behind him. She wasn't testing him. She was standing in front of him. Marcus exhaled slowly. "This could destroy you," he said. Elena's voice softened. "Or it could remind me I'm human." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't hostile. For the first time, this didn't feel like a CEO and her strategist. It felt like two exhausted adults trying to decide whether vulnerability was weakness. Marcus reached for the menu. "Fine," he said. "We'll call it a date." Elena didn't smile widely. She didn't celebrate. But something in her eyes shifted. "Thank you," she said quietly. And for the first time that night, the power balance wasn't the most important thing in the room. It was the fact that neither of them was pretending anymore. Before we continue the story, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you ever loved someone with your pure heart, subscribe to this channel so you never miss the best stories. By 9:30 p.m., it didn't feel like a blind date anymore. It felt like a negotiation without contracts. They talked about neutral things first. Work trends, market shifts, the new expansion in Singapore. Then slowly, the conversation shifted. Elena asked about Lily. Marcus hesitated for half a second before answering. "She's 9, he said. "Smart, too observant. She sounds like you." He almost smiled. "She's braver." Elena studied that answer carefully. "Do you miss being married?" she asked, not casually. Marcus didn't look offended. He looked tired. "I miss what I thought it would be." That silence was heavier than any dramatic confession. Elena didn't interrupt. She let it breathe. "Control feels safer than hope," he added quietly. The honesty surprised even him. Elena leaned back slightly. Hope is inefficient. He looked at her. That's a CEO answer. It's also true. They both knew what they were admitting without saying it directly. They were successful because they didn't rely on anyone. They had built empires from discipline. But discipline doesn't hold your hand at 2 a.m., and it doesn't sit across from you when you're finally honest. Upstairs, in a glass conference room overlooking the city, 2 board members were already talking. "This is reckless," one of them said. "It's optics," the other replied. "And optics move markets. They can't date, not publicly. She can do what she wants. She can. But shareholders won't like ambiguity." Downstairs, neither Marcus nor Elena knew how quickly the whispers were hardening into strategy. "Elena," Marcus said carefully, "this doesn't stay private. I know. You'll be accused of favoritism." "I already am," she replied calmly. He frowned. "You are? You've been promoted twice in 4 years. You think they don't notice?" Marcus felt irritation rise. Those were earned. "I know," she said softly. "But perception doesn't care about truth." That was the first crack in her composure. Not fear, just awareness. "You planned this," he said slowly. "You knew this would escalate." "Yes. Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Then finally, "Because I'm tired of protecting an image that doesn't protect me back." That wasn't the CEO speaking. That was a woman who had carried control like armor for too long. Marcus looked at her differently then. Not as his boss, not as power, just as someone exhausted. "You think this is courage," he said quietly. She met his eyes. "Isn't it?" He considered it. Courage would be walking away before it cost them both everything. Courage would be refusing. But sitting here, knowing the consequences and staying anyway, that felt reckless and strangely honest. His phone vibrated on the table. He glanced down. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. A text followed. "The board is calling an early meeting. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. This isn't subtle." Marcus looked up at Elena. She had already seen her own phone light up. The board didn't waste time. "They're moving fast," he said. "They always do," she replied calmly. "Are you prepared?" "For what?" "For them asking whether I'm worth the risk." That's when something in her expression shifted. "You're not a risk," she said firmly. "You're not disposable. But in corporate warfare, someone always was." Marcus stood slowly. "This stops being about us tomorrow." Elena stood too. "It already is," she said. They stood there, too close for colleagues, too distant for lovers. "What are we doing?" he asked quietly. Elena didn't look away this time. "We're deciding whether we're brave enough to tell the truth." Outside the private room, the city moved normally. Inside, 2 people were about to become leverage in a game neither of them fully controlled, and neither of them was ready for how personal it was about to get. At 6:52 a.m., Marcus was already in the boardroom. He hadn't slept much. Lily had asked why he looked distracted at breakfast. He'd told her it was just work. It wasn't just work. The boardroom felt colder than usual. 12 seats, floor-to-ceiling windows, controlled lighting, no wasted motion. Elena walked in at exactly 6:59 a.m. She looked composed, neutral suit, hair pulled back, CEO mode fully restored. If anyone had seen her the night before, they wouldn't recognize her now. Marcus understood the message. This room was not noir. This was survival. The chairman cleared his throat. "We'll address this directly. No pleasantries. Efficient. We've received reports of a personal relationship between the CEO and the head of strategy." Silence. Elena didn't hesitate. "You've received accurate reports of a dinner." "Semantics won't help us," another board member said sharply. Marcus stayed quiet. He knew this wasn't his stage. "Is this relationship ongoing?" the chairman asked. Elena's pause was brief but visible. "We are exploring it." The room tightened. "Exploring," one member repeated. "With a direct report?" "He is not a direct report," Elena corrected. "He operates independently within strategy. Public perception won't parse org charts." Marcus felt the weight shift toward him. Mr. Ree, the chairman said, are you seeking preferential treatment? The question stung more than expected. No, Marcus said calmly. My performance record stands on its own. That's not what we're asking. Marcus kept his tone even. Then clarify. The tension in the room sharpened. He had always been direct. Today it felt dangerous. The chairman leaned forward. If this continues, shareholders may question governance integrity. Translation: choose the company or choose each other. Elena spoke before Marcus could. I built this company from nothing, she said evenly. I have never compromised governance. And now, someone challenged. And now, she replied, I refuse to treat human connection as misconduct. That landed harder than expected. The board didn't look convinced. One member spoke quietly but firmly. We can avoid market instability with a clean solution. Marcus already knew what that meant. Reassignment? He asked. Or resignation, the chairman said. The word hung in the air like a verdict. Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not fear, anger. I've given this company 4 years, he said steadily. Expanded 2 divisions, increased margins by 12%. And now I'm a liability because I had dinner? It's not dinner, the chairman replied. It's optics. Elena's jaw tightened slightly. Marcus turned to her. You knew this was coming. Yes. And you still did it. Yes. There it was again, that refusal to hide. But now the consequences weren't theoretical. They're asking you to choose, he said quietly. They're asking me to protect the image, she corrected. Which protects the company. Or protects their comfort, the chairman cut in. We need a decision by end of week. Either formal disclosure with restructuring, or Mr. Ree transitions out. Marcus didn't react outwardly. Inside it felt like déjà vu. Another institution deciding his future. Another room where his personal life became leverage. He stood slowly. I won't resign out of shame, he said calmly. If I leave, it will be on my terms. The board didn't respond. Elena didn't look at him immediately. When she finally did, her composure slipped, just slightly. This wasn't strategy anymore. This was sacrifice. And neither of them had decided who would pay. By noon, the entire executive floor knew. No official memo had gone out. There didn't need to be one. The tension in the air was enough. Assistants stopped mid-sentence when Marcus walked past. 2 junior analysts looked away too quickly. Slack notifications buzzed harder than usual. The empire was reacting. Marcus closed his office door and finally allowed himself to sit. He stared at the glass wall across from him, transparent but not really. His phone buzzed. Elena, are you all right? He almost laughed. All right was relative. He typed back, I've handled worse. It wasn't entirely a lie. His divorce had been public in its own way. Friends had taken sides. His ex-wife had accused him of being emotionally unavailable. Work had become his refuge. Now work was the battlefield. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. It was Daniel, one of the senior board liaisons. You should consider the offer, Daniel said quietly. What offer? A dignified exit, strategic consultant role, same compensation, different reporting structure. Marcus studied him. You mean exile? Daniel sighed. Optics matter. There it is again. Daniel lowered his voice. They think she's blinded by emotion. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. She's not blind, he said calmly. She's aware. Awareness doesn't calm investors. Daniel hesitated. They're already discussing contingency leadership plans. That hit harder than Marcus expected. They'd replace her. If stock dips, Marcus stood slowly. Because she had dinner. Because perception of favoritism can spiral. Marcus ran a hand over his face. He understood corporate fear. He understood risk. But this felt like punishment for honesty. Across the building, Elena sat alone in her office. Her inbox was filling fast. 3 investor inquiries. 2 subtle threats. 1 formal request for governance clarification. Her assistant stepped in carefully. Ma'am, legal suggests we prepare a statement. Elena nodded. She hadn't expected it to move this quickly, but she also hadn't expected the weight in her chest. Not fear for herself, fear for him. Marcus had rebuilt his life once already. She wasn't sure she had the right to disrupt it. Her phone lit up again. Anonymous message. This ends with him gone, or you. She stared at it longer than she should have, not because she was intimidated, because she understood the mechanics. Boards didn't like unpredictability, and love, even undeclared love, was unpredictable. That evening, Marcus picked up Lily from her after-school program. She noticed immediately. "You look mad," she said from the back seat. "I'm not mad. You're quiet mad." He exhaled softly. "You're getting too smart." She shrugged. "Are you in trouble at work?" The question landed unexpectedly. "Why would you think that?" "Because when grown-ups look like that, it's usually trouble." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "I might have to make a hard decision soon." "Like what?" He paused. "Like choosing what matters." She thought about that seriously. Is it about being right or being happy? He almost missed the red light. "What?" "That's what you always tell me. Sometimes you can't have both." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He pulled into the driveway slowly. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Something like that." Inside the house, after Lily went to bed, his phone rang. "Elena," he answered. "They're escalating," she said. "I know." Silence. "I won't let them remove you quietly," she added. "And if they move against you?" Another silence, this one heavier. "For the first time in my career," she said quietly, "I don't know the strategic answer." Marcus closed his eyes. Maybe that's the point. On the other end of the line, Elena exhaled slowly. Neither of them had realized how much easier it was to build empires than to protect something fragile. And now the choice wasn't theoretical anymore. It was coming. The stock dipped by 2.3% the next morning. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was enough. Enough for headlines. CEO's personal relationship raises governance questions. Vail Holdings facing internal scrutiny. Marcus read the articles without emotion. Media didn't care about nuance. It cared about narrative. And the narrative was simple. Powerful CEO compromises professionalism for romance. He shut his laptop. This wasn't about love yet. It was about power. At 10 a.m., Elena was summoned again. This time the tone wasn't advisory. It was decisive. "We've reviewed risk exposure," the chairman said flatly. "To stabilize perception, we recommend immediate structural separation." "Define separation," Elena replied calmly. "Mr. Reed transitions to an external advisory role effective immediately, and if I refuse," a pause. "We move to a vote of confidence." There it was. Not a threat, a mechanism. Elena leaned back in her chair. For years she had played this game flawlessly. Anticipated moves, controlled optics, stayed 3 steps ahead. But this wasn't strategy. This was sacrifice dressed as governance. "You're asking me to remove the most competent strategist in this company," she said evenly. "We're asking you to protect shareholder value. And if shareholder value includes trust and leadership, leadership includes discipline." The message was clear. Control your personal life, or lose professional control. Marcus didn't wait to be called in. He walked into her office unannounced. Her assistant didn't stop him. Elena looked up as he closed the door. "They're forcing the decision," he said. "Yes, and they want you reassigned. Or," she didn't answer immediately, "or they call for a confidence vote." Marcus processed that. "They'd actually remove you. If they can justify it." Silence. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city stretched out behind her in full daylight, clean, powerful, unbothered. Marcus walked closer to her desk. "This was never supposed to cost you this much." Elena's voice stayed steady. "I knew the cost." "No," he said quietly. "You calculated the risk. That's different." Something in her expression shifted. You think I didn't understand? She asked. I think you're used to winning. And you're used to losing? She countered. That hit closer than he liked. My marriage ended because I couldn't balance ambition and presence, he said evenly. I won't let history repeat because of me. This isn't your fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It matters who pays. She stood then. For the first time since this began, she stepped out from behind the desk. No one is paying, she said firmly. Someone always does. He wasn't angry. He was realistic. If I step out, he continued, they calm down. For now, it buys you time. And what about you? He hesitated. I've rebuilt before. Elena stared at him. That's not noble, she said quietly. That's self-erasure. It's protection of me, of what you built. The room felt smaller again, like Noir had followed them into daylight. You don't get to decide alone, she said. And neither do you. They stood close now, not touching. Just close enough to feel the tension. You asked me if I was brave enough to tell the truth, he reminded her. Yes, the truth is, I care about you. The words were simple, direct, no drama. But they changed the air completely. Elena inhaled sharply. And the other truth? She asked. He met her eyes. I won't be the reason they dismantle you. For the first time, she looked shaken. You're not a liability, she said firmly. But I might be leverage. And leverage was dangerous in corporate wars. Her phone buzzed again. Board meeting. Emergency session. 4 p.m. decision day. Marcus looked at the notification over her shoulder. They're not waiting. No, she said quietly. They aren't. This wasn't about rumors anymore. It was about control. And in 4 hours, one of them might lose everything they built. At 3:58 p.m., the boardroom doors closed. No observers, no assistants, just the board and Elena. Marcus wasn't invited. That told him enough. He stood outside the building, not inside it. For the first time in 4 years, he wasn't pacing corporate floors waiting for a verdict. He was standing on the sidewalk like a civilian. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that feels undecided. His phone stayed silent. He didn't call her, didn't text. If this was her fight, she deserved to fight it without him hovering like a complication. Inside, the chairman began without ceremony. We are calling a formal vote of confidence. Elena didn't interrupt. If this relationship continues in its current form, we believe it compromises executive objectivity. And if it ends? She asked evenly. That would mitigate reputational risk. So you're not questioning my performance, she clarified. No, you're questioning optics. Yes. Elena nodded once. For 12 years, she said calmly, I have delivered consistent growth. 0 scandals, 0 compliance violations. I built this company with discipline. No one argued. And now, she continued, you're asking me to prove I'm still disciplined by sacrificing something personal. The chairman didn't soften. We're asking you to protect the company. Elena paused. Then she did something she had never done in this room. She stepped away from the head seat and stood at the window. For years, I believed control was strength, she said quietly. I thought if I removed anything unpredictable from my life, I would remain untouchable. She turned back toward them. But what you're really asking is whether I can lead while being human. Silence. I can... The chairman's voice hardened slightly. That's not the question. It is, she replied. Because leadership without humanity becomes fear-based. And fear-based leadership is what actually damages companies. A few members shifted uncomfortably. You want me to prove I'm objective? She continued. Fine, here's the objective truth. She inhaled slowly. Marcus Reed has earned every promotion, every bonus, every strategic win. If I were to remove him today to satisfy gossip, that would be favoritism. The room stilled. Favoritism toward who, someone asked. Toward perception over performance. That landed. You can vote against me, she said evenly, but I will not ask him to step aside for something that has not affected his work or mine. The chairman studied her carefully. You're prepared to risk removal? Yes. No hesitation, no calculation, just clarity. Outside, Marcus finally felt his phone vibrate. One message. Elena, come upstairs. That was it. He walked back in slowly. Elevator ride felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, her assistant looked relieved. They're done, she whispered. Marcus entered the boardroom. Elena was still standing. The chairman looked at him directly. Mr. Reed, the board has voted. Marcus didn't brace, he just listened. We are issuing a formal disclosure policy update. Structural safeguards will be implemented, but there will be no forced reassignment. He blinked once. That means, the chairman added, the CEO retains our confidence. The air shifted, not victory, not defeat, just resolution. Marcus looked at Elena. She didn't look triumphant. She looked steady. After the board members filed out, the room was finally empty. You didn't fold, he said quietly. No, she replied. You could have. Yes. Silence. And you? She asked softly. Were you ready to leave? He nodded once. Yes. She walked closer to him. Then we're both done choosing safety. He let out a slow breath. This won't be easy. I know. People will still talk. I know. He looked at her carefully. This isn't control anymore. No, she agreed. It's trust. And for the first time since that text message at 6:42 p.m., neither of them felt like they were negotiating. They were choosing. A disclosure went out the next morning, short, professional, clear. It confirmed that the CEO and head of strategy had entered a personal relationship. It outlined governance safeguards, independent oversight, performance review transparency, no apology, no scandal, just truth. The market reacted mildly, a small dip, then stabilization. Investors liked clarity more than secrecy. The rumors didn't disappear. They evolved. Some said Elena had lost her edge. Others said she'd gained one. Marcus returned to work without theatrics. Same meetings, same tone, same precision. If anything, he was sharper. Because now nothing was hidden. No glances needed to be explained. No dinners needed to be disguised. But the real shift wasn't in the office. It was on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Elena stood awkwardly in Marcus's kitchen, holding a container of strawberries like she was presenting a quarterly report. Lily studied her carefully. So, you're my dad's boss? She asked. Elena nodded. Yes. And his girlfriend? Elena hesitated. Marcus watched closely. Yes, she said simply. Lily crossed her arms. Are you going to make him work all the time? Elena blinked. No. Are you mean? Marcus nearly choked. Elena crouched slightly to Lily's level. I can be strict, but not with people I care about. Lily considered that. Okay. It wasn't approval, but it wasn't rejection either. As Lily ran back to her room, Marcus looked at Elena. You faced a board of directors without blinking, he said quietly. But that almost scared you. She exhaled. She matters more. That was the moment it became real. Not the vote, not the headlines. This, the blending of worlds. Weeks passed. The noise quieted. Performance metrics remained strong. Growth projections held steady. The board adjusted. And something unexpected happened. Elena became lighter, not less powerful, just less armored. She delegated more, listened more, allowed disagreement without framing it as a battle. Marcus noticed. You're different, he said one evening. I'm less tired, she replied. Control had protected her, but it had also isolated her. Marcus had hidden behind discipline for years, but discipline had kept him alone. Now, neither of them were pretending strength meant detachment. They still argued. They still disagreed on strategy. But it wasn't ego anymore. It was partnership. One night, months later, Marcus looked at her across the table at Noir again. Same place, different atmosphere. No more blind dates, he said. She smiled faintly. No more hiding, she replied. And this time there were no rumors attached. Just two people who had chosen dignity over optics, truth over fear, each other over control,